Hello everyone, my name's Scott. I just wanted to show you this video thinking it might help somebody else out. I had to change out my front brakes on my 2000 Jeep Grand Cherokee 4.7 V8. I had some chatter on the very front wheels whenever I applied the brakes. I had some warpage on the rotors. I had to take those in to a local auto parts store and have those machine turned. And obviously when I did that, I put new brakes on it. And I thought this video might help others on how they could also put new brakes on their Jeep Grand Cherokee as well. Let's check it out. Okay, here's my Jeep. I've already pulled off the wheels and the brakes on that side. Okay, so once I get the rotor off, then I got to take off the old brake pads that I need to replace, and then compress the cylinders back into the housing on the caliper. Okay, let's watch. Okay, so I take out the old pads. The old pads out. There you go. You can see some score marks on that. And the other one. Take the other one out. A little bit more difficult to get out. That one's not quite as bad. Still some decent wear on that, but the main reason I did this is I had some real bad wheel vibration where I had to get the rotors turned. Okay, so now, as you can see here, I'll pull this up. Okay, you can see I need to clean up my pins a little bit and re-grease those, but you can see I needed to press these cylinders in. So we just I use a couple blocks of wood. 1 second. Okay, as you can see, I have my blocks of wood in place on the caliper. So then, on this part of the caliper, not this part, but on this part here, the solid part, I pry against this wood so I can press this cylinder. Now watch. One things you got to be patient for. So you can see it. Do you see it slowly compressing? This takes a little time. Push the rubber seal. Usually there's fluid that passes through there, so I just push the rubber seal there that I see bulging a little bit. Once again, there is a regular tool for this, and I don't have the tool, so I'm doing it this way. Okay, so position our blocks once again, and now you'll notice I'm pressing against this part here, leverage against that, and I'm going to continue to compress that cylinder. As you can see, it's compressing. Okay, now I just got to do the other side. Let me set that up for you. Okay, so now, as you can see, got this one all the way depressed. I take the smaller block of the two and put it, this one's extended, put the smaller block there, put this next piece of wood here. Now I have to retract this a little bit so that I can get the other piece of wood in. Right here. Okay. Now I go once again, move this out,
I want to go against the inside part of the stationary caliper. In fact, I'm going to try to use this other side just so you can see better. Okay, now watch this as I depress it. Move the camera just a little bit so you can see it. Just got to be patient. But you can see it's depressing. Just take your time. Just apply a little pressure to it. There we go. Compress that enough. Alright. Now I just move this back out like this so that I can take my blocks back out. Put this back on. Okay, so I put some of this inside the boots. So you can see some of this grease inside these boots. Both of these boots. So it has plenty of grease. So put it inside the boots, and I've also, as you can see, greased up these slides real well. So the slides are greased up. Okay. And then I slide this all back together again. Like so. I'm trying to do this very carefully because I don't want to rub the grease off. Okay, now once you slide those on there, these boots actually snap in to the very ends. Make sure you get it all the way on. Okay. And they snap in. There we go. I have a little groove in the shaft of the pin. And it's all the way in. It snaps into the groove. So that's what you want it to do. So I'm working this. Making sure that this is working freely. That's what you want to make sure. Can you see that okay? Yeah. Let's try to zoom in. Might help you. So I want it to work freely. There. There. Now let's go ahead and put the brake pads on. Okay, now I'm going to install in the caliper. Now that I've got the cylinders compressed back into the caliper, I'm going to install the new brakes, new brake pads. There we go. It's a lifetime warranty. Yeah. I can try to slide it in. This one usually goes in pretty good. You gotta depress that little clip right there. Sometimes it can be a struggle. All it is just a little bitty clip. If you don't depress it just right. There we go. We're in, okay? There's one. Okay, now here's the other one. This is how it goes. It's toward the rotor. I need to push this back a little bit so I can fit this in there. Once again, this side. Put this side in first. It tends to go a lot easier. still having to depress that little clip. If you put this side in first, that side does go a little easier. Okay, now we gotta depress this little clip. Bingo. That worked a little quicker that time. Okay, now I gotta move this caliper. As you can see, I move this caliper wider, farther apart, so that I can get it on the rotor. Now if you'll notice here, I've got just a little bit of bulging. I don't know if you can see this here. Can you see this here? Right there, can you see that? Now, the wheel cylinder boot is not coming loose. It's just bulging a little bit. The idea is, you just want to make sure. Let me show you one little trick. Hold on. Okay, so you'll notice I have just a little bit of bulging on that one wheel cylinder boot. There's nothing wrong with it. I actually had the same problem last time. But this is what I do. I just got here just a real thin piece of cardboard. And I just take that and I put that right there. Okay, you see? To protect the boot so it won't pinch it. And then I just move this inward. See? Now I've protected the boot. The cylinder's not rotating and no parts are rotating to worry about that being cut. You just move that back, and what happens over time is the cylinder extends out, that extra material is taken up anyway, the next extra wheel cylinder material. Okay, so got that in there. Now it's time to put it on to the rotor. Wait 1 second. Okay, so now let's put the rotor on. As you can see here, this rotor turned. Fortunately, it was still within specifications, so there's enough material on here they could turn the warp part off of it, scored part off of it, and I could salvage my existing rotors. Okay, so now put that on there. Now I gotta locate my bolts. There we go. The bolts to put the caliper on. And I take this like this. And gently rotate this. Put the jack stand out of the way. Pushing this all the way back. Now that I've got this back where I want it, I can remove this. Now I put the caliper in place onto the rotor. Sizing up the brake pads. Okay. Got that in place. Now this is kind of a tough thing to see because you're having to hold it and see it and put the screw in at the same time. Sometimes it can be a little difficult. But if you have patience, thought I lost the screw. If you have patience, you can get it. Okay, so now I've removed these lines here. Hope you can see this. I've removed these lines here just because in order to get the socket in and the bolt in, I didn't want to crimp these brake lines. So I just moved them from the snap-on point, and I'll snap them back in place once I'm at that stage. Insert the top bolt, swing the caliper in place. Once again, it's kind of a cramped room in here, but you can do it. Piece of cake. So now I'm trying to start the bolt. Okay, now one thing I do want to do before I have the bolts totally in. Hold on 1 second, let me show you. Okay, one thing you always want to do when you put your brakes on. Now there's a torque spec for these bolts when you're installing them. You can try to go with a torque spec. And I think these are, well, I'm not sure what the torque spec is because every car is different. But I'll look in the book before. Now what you do is you put a little bit of this, not a whole lot, you put a little bit of this on the bolt. This is thread locker. That's all I put on there. You don't need to put any more on there than that. That's plenty. Okay. Alright, now just install a bolt. When you do that, you put that thread locker, which I don't know if you can see, it's kind of a dirty tube. This is Permatex thread locker. You can get it in any auto parts store. In fact, I think you can even get it at Walmart. Okay, let me start the bolt. Like I mentioned before, it's kind of cramped in here. As long as you're patient, you can get it. Okay. Now, I'm using for this particular one, this is an 18 millimeter socket to get these bolts out. And in this case, put them back in. And usually, I use a 3/8 ratchet to put it back in. It's smaller, you got more room to get in there, and a 1/2 inch to tighten them down. 1/2 inch ratchet to tighten them down. Make sure my rotor's on there good. Okay. As I snug it up, up here. Grab all of this. Tighten this top one down. Okay, snug it up. And I'm going to go back and do it even better with a 1/2 inch ratchet. Next, I put the torque spec to it. Okay, so now it's all good. All set up here. It looks okay. Take me snap this back into the boot. There we go. Get that snapped in place. Now on this side, I didn't have to replace the axle. Axle boot is in good shape. Yeah, it's nice and shiny. Good shape. All I had to do was change the brakes out. But since the rotors were warped real bad, I had to turn those. Obviously, I got new brake pads. Okay, that side's done. Pretty simple. Not much to it. Okay, so right now I'm trying to compress the cylinders on the caliper so that I can put the new pads on. Let me show you how I do it. Okay, now there's a specific tool for doing this. But what I do is I just use the blocks of wood and I just place them in here. And let me show you. Okay, so you can see I have the blocks of wood, 3 pieces actually this time, and then I just have a screwdriver and then I just pry on this. Now as you can see, as I'm prying with a screwdriver on these blocks of wood, you'll see that cylinder. You'll see it retracting. I don't have much further to go. There we go. Now we just do the other side. Okay, so now you can see they're both retracted. And now I can go ahead and put the brake pads in to slip it on the rotor. Okay, so now got these lifetime warranty brakes from my local auto parts store. Let's slip these in here. You got to get them in the clips just right. This one can be kind of tough. I usually put this one in first. Did you see that one in pretty good? Put this one in here. Sometimes it's kind of tough to do, especially if you've only got one hand with the other one holding the camera. See, there's a little clip right there. I got to depress that little clip. If I can't do this holding the camera, I might have to stop for a minute. Let me stop for a minute. I'll be right back. Okay, with the benefit of two hands, I was able to go ahead and install that one. I still have a little gap here, but that's okay. I'm going to move this back after I put the other brake in. The brake pad, that is. Okay, here's the other brake pad. Go ahead and drop this in here. Once again, try to start at the bottom. If you go ahead and put the bottom one in first, it seems to be easier to do that. But once again, it's tough with two hands. Wait one moment. Okay, I got the one side in. As you notice, I'm using a jack stand to help support the caliper, just so that I don't put any undue tension on this line here. Otherwise, if I allow it to slip and hang, this rubber hose could crack or break, and then you'd be in trouble. You'd have to go to the parts store to get a whole new line. We don't want to do that. Okay, so now let's see if we can fit this in. We got the one end in. Now that one worked really nice. Okay. Now, I've got some room here. Now I'm going to go ahead and try to put this on the rotor. For 1 second, please. I need two hands. Now we're ready for the rotor. As you can see, I had these turned because I had some wobble. A lot of wobble when I put the brakes on. Wobble, warpage, whatever. Okay, so now put this hub on. Now we take this here. Since I checked the pads, they slip on really good. Okay. Now I take the bolt and put Loctite on. And I insert it into the back. In fact, I'm going to put it in the lower hole because usually that one's it's easier to get to the lower hole. You got better access to the lower hole. So I'm going to go ahead and do that first because that alignment is easier. And then that way, once I start threading it, the lower bolt's going to hold the caliper in place so that it's easy for me to try to locate the top holes. So see, it spins free. Okay. Rotates free, whatever you want to say. Okay, now take a little bit. Once again, thread locker. Okay. Put the cap back on. This stuff dries quick. Plenty. Okay, now we come through here. Locate the upper hole, which can be a little difficult only because there's not a whole lot of room back here. So you just gotta try to get your fingers in there and find home. Okay, and I was able to find home. So we take our wrench out. We change it out to the proper socket size, which in this case, I need to have my extensions in order for this to work. Here we go. Okay, I can get in there. Put my 1/2-inch ratchet. Once again, these bolts are 18 millimeter. looks like you put this on too soon. That's the brake line hose, because it went in my way, but now I had to actually take it out of its clip position just so that I can put this in place. Okay, got the new pads in there, just like I showed you before. We got to snug it up. We don't want to make it too tight. Go to the lower bolt. Doing the same thing. We just want to snug it up. Don't want it too tight yet. Okay. Get that snug up. That's snugged up. Okay, now before I get them tight, I'm going to put this brake line hose back in place on the clip. I don't want it wandering free while I'm driving, because it just might get hung up on something. Okay, put this back in. Rotor's loose only because the wheel cylinders haven't engaged yet. Once I put the brake pedal on while driving, I'll pump it in the driveway first and get them to seat themselves against the brake pads, and it'll take out that slack, whatever you want to call it. Okay, everything looks okay. I'm checking everything before I do a final tightening of those 18mm bolts. It looks okay. Okay, now let's get into it. Tighten those down. Tighten the upper one. Now what I'm going to do is, I'm going to do one final torque on this, then we can put the wheels on. See you in a second. Okay, now it's a good idea, while you have this off, go ahead and grease up these grease zerks that you see here, because you got really good access to it, so you can do that. There you go. Now let's put the wheel on.
I hope this video really helped you out as far as changing brakes on your Jeep Grand Cherokee. And also too, you might want to check out the videos that I have, because I had to replace the CV joint axle on the driver's side because the boot cracked. So you might want to check out that video as well. Thanks for watching in. See you later.